What do you think? Maybe it's time for a new direction. Welcome back to another Gary Lewis and the Playboys episode. Last time, we talked about You Don't Have to Paint Me a Picture, one of the group's more underrated, sort of melancholy albums. We also discussed seeing Gary Lewis live in 2025, which was pretty cool. So you can check those out if you haven't. But today I thought, well, let's keep on working our way through Gary's discography of 1967, and released in June of that year was his little album called New Directions. New Directions peaked at number 185 on the best-selling LP chart, the lowest Gary Lewis album to date by a very, very wide margin. The blurb on the back, you might remember I haven't been too impressed with the past few blurbs, very short. They often have anonymous authors, they really don't say much of anything. This one by Richard Oliver is much better. It's kind of dated, some of that slang like, oh, his music's a gas, and that kind of stuff that we don't really use anymore. But on the other hand, it talks about Gary trying to branch into psychedelic music, and also his attempt to sort of bridge the gap between the sunshine pop or the light pop songs he's done before and the new stuff. Going in new directions, but also making sure not to alienate his current audience. And I really like that too, and Richard Oliver's write-up feels far more ambitious than the past few that we've read. A little dated, but not too bad. Of course, as the standard by now, no Playboys pictured anywhere on the sleeve. We do get a lot of pictures of Gary's marriage and his army service, and of course we get a panel with all of the previous LPs in it, or at least, yeah, never mind, they're all there. Golden Greats is there too, so that's good. Pretty cool stuff. The front cover leaves a lot to be desired. You know, we've seen giant Gary face before, but never this big. This looks like Gary's about to come through your windshield. I'm sure this enormous image of him probably frightened a lot of people away from the album. I feel like someone would have bought this, put it on the record shelf, and woken up in the middle of the night to see this staring at you. I don't know. Gary's a good-looking dude, but not sure we need that enormous zoomed-in picture of his face there on the front. Pretty weak cover for my money. So the group released a single in between these two albums called The Loser with a Broken Heart, back with Ice Melts in the Sun. That's not really relevant to today. We're going to talk about that with a later LP, but they passed over that single, the first Gary Lewis and the Playboys single to miss the top 40, but still chart. And we'll talk about that one down the road a little bit, because neither of those songs were used for this particular record. Instead, the lead single was Girls in Love, which we'll come back to in just a moment, that one peaking at number 39. So behind the scenes, we got a lot of new people. We don't see those familiar faces. We don't see Snuff Garrett. We don't see Leon Russell. Instead, there's a big list of producers and arrangers and writers. According to Gary Lewis, Gary Klein served as the main producer for the thing. Gary claims that this album underperformed due to litigation between him and Liberty Records. He writes about this in several of the booklets for the CDs. Some difficulty going on there. Maybe that's why he couldn't use some of the faces we've seen before, people like Dave Pell. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird though, but this one definitely underperformed. We have several producers listed: Koppelman, Rubin, Klein. The prominent songwriters here, for once we have a Gary Lewis album that the same people wrote most of the songs, actually half of them. That'd be the famous team of Bonner and Gordon, today best remembered for the Turtles' Happy Together. They wrote most of the music, or half the music, on here. We'll talk about all their contributions in just a moment. Multiple arrangers, and yeah, definitely some new directions there. New people behind the scenes, a new style of music, all that kind of stuff. So pretty interesting, and of course you can get New Directions on CD. It's this one here. It's in the 3-pack, along with You Don't Have to Paint Me a Picture, and Gary Lewis Now, which we'll get to down the road a little bit. So let's take a look at the songs on here. Hold up the sleeve for you. Start off side 1 with Girls in Love, the main single, again peaking at number 39, written by the team of Bonner and Gordon. I believe an original, too, for Gary and the group. A lot of people say it has something of a Beach Boys sound to it, comparing it to California Girls. I don't hear that as much. I could see a Beach Boys version working, but I don't know. I don't really get those vibes as much as some people do. There are alternate mixes of the song too, some adding reverb and some taking it away. Usually the booklet specifies which one they're using. Not the group's last top 40 hit, but getting close to that. So keep that one in mind too. But Girls in Love's a pretty fun song. Girls in Love, I think makes a good opener and kind of showing that new style and that new direction that they wanted to do. Follow that up with Double Good Feeling, another Bonner and Gordon collaboration there. This one they dug out of the vaults when they were part of the Magicians. They had done this and now repurposing it for Gary. That's pretty cool there. They updated it some for him. And it turns out Bobby V had actually done a version as well. He goes with kind of the same sort of vibe that Gary and the group do too. So Double Good Feeling, a nice song. I like that they put two by the same writers together. I think that starts off the album on the right foot. Kind of get off on a consistent start there. We shift things up a little bit for Keepin' Company. This one also written by Bonner and Gordon there. Kind of an old-fashioned shuffle, has like a honky-tonk feel to it. As far as I know, it's no relation to the standard, the big band standard, Keeping Company with You, or just Keeping Company. I think it's a brand new thing. I don't think it adapted that at all. But yeah, another good contribution there. Another fun one, again, new direction, even though it's kind of an old-fashioned sounding song. Steve Duboff's Here I Am follows up with there. This is kind of a weird one. Johnny Tillotson did a version of this around the same time. Not sure if he did it first or if Gary did it first, but this one's all about visiting New York City for the first time and wandering around seeing these amazing things. It feels like it was written for the NYC Tourism Board. Maybe it was. I don't know. They could have used it in one of those old I Love New York ads. It reminds me a lot of Looking for the Stars, which we talked about on the You Don't Have to Paint Me a Picture record, which is all about walking through Los Angeles. But where that's spoken word comedy, this is actually a song, but I don't know, it feels a little hacky. Not a huge fan of that. Then we have probably the most famous one on here, maybe outside of Girls in Love. We have Hello Sunshine by Bobby Darin. And Gary kind of does it in more of a spoken word minimalist style. He doesn't have Bobby Darin's coolness. It's a little bit different there, but Hello Sunshine is a fun song. And I do think it suits the vibe of the album, but kind of wish Gary had been a little more ambitious. I realized that he was maybe trying not to copy Bobby Darin directly, and they'd done some Bobby Darin stuff before, so trying something different didn't quite work this time. And we finish off the first side with Neighborhood Rock and Roll Band, probably the most conventional song on the record, and definitely the one where Gary sounds the most like the Gary that we've come to know by this point. This one sounds like it could have been on one of his older records very easily. It is a pretty fun tune, and I think it's an original for him. Though there seems to be some confusion. The writer's listed as Martin Schlegel, but then Discogs says that's misspelled from Siegel, or like an alternate credit. I don't know if that's true, but fun, kind of juvenile sunshine pop bit to finish off the first side of the record. Kind of a throwback. Has kind of almost a 50s vibe in some ways, but I like it though. A fun one. One the kids I think would really clamor towards. Flip the record over for New in Town by the team of Pearls, Lerman, and Shepard. This one was used as the B-side for the song Jill. We're going to talk about Jill down the road. That one will come up on the next kind of major studio LP that we cover. But it's kind of a bleak one too. New in town, but you're lonely and no one will talk to you. You don't know anybody. You don't fit in yet. Kind of one of those darker, melancholy B-sides. Feels almost like something we might have heard on You Don't Have to Paint Me a Picture, going for a sadder song, that sort of thing. We have Slow Movin' Man, back to the team of Bonner and Gordon there. Cover of the song by Teddy Neely that he had done it the previous year. Teddy Neely went for like a Jack Lord vibe where I'm a slow moving man, but you're cool because you're moving slow, that kind of thing. You don't get upset or uptight or anything like that. Gary does much more of a, I guess, less gritty, less cool kind of version. His feels more like a sunshine pop one. It's good, but I think Teddy Neely did it better. We have, oops, as I knock over my other things there, we have A Little Love From You coming up next there. Steve Duboff returns, paired up with Art Kornfeld for this kind of weird pop polka sort of vibe. It had been done before by smaller groups like the Bassets and the Fallen Angels, but this one feels a lot like something we would have heard on Everybody Loves a Clown. It has that kind of sort of circusy vibe, this weird sort of polka-ish rock tune. I thought it was kind of weird, but this sort of polka-ish kind of rock tune feels kind of weird. We have the B-side to Girls in Love with Let's Be More Than Friends, and this one had been done by the Eastern Scene before. Gary's covering it there, written by Ted Darrell. Very hip song, kind of chill, kind of mellow. The coolness that Gary didn't have on Slow Moving Man kind of pops up here a little bit, I think. And Let's Be More Than Friends is a good song, good choice for a B-side. Probably the most notable one on here after Girls in Love and Hello Sunshine is Me About You. The Turtles and Bobby Darin had both done versions of this. Another Bonner and Gordon tune, of course. And Gary borrows mostly from Bobby Darin's version. That kind of thing. He does it kind of gently and kind of mellowy. The Turtles make it more into like a pop tune. And I kind of like the Turtles version a little bit more. Has more energy. But I get why Gary did it this way. And he doesn't do a bad job on it. And lastly, we have the final song and the final Bonner and Gordon tune for you. We have Moonshine. Ricky Nelson had done a version the same year. Not sure if he did it first or if Gary did it first. But it makes for a really fun finale. It's a very catchy tune. A lot to like about it there. And that wraps up New Directions. Not a lot to say because we have songs that were more original this time too. And I actually think, like You Don't Have to Paint Me a Picture, this is a pretty underrated album. Didn't go anywhere, either due to the litigation, the creepy cover, or maybe just the idea that Gary was going to get a little bit more psychedelic, a little more out there. Wasn't appealing to his fans at the time, but New Directions is actually a pretty interesting listen. It doesn't always sound like Gary. There are songs that it feels like it could be a different artist, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. However, it does deliver on its promise to try new things. You might remember that the She's Just My Style record claimed how it was blazing new trails and reimagining songs, and really didn't deliver fully on that. This one does. This one promises new directions, and that's exactly what it has in it. Got a fun listen with a lot of unique songs, a lot of very talented people, even though we're not the usual team that we would think of when it came to Gary, excuse me. Did a pretty nice job on it. Next time, we'll talk about the Sunset Records Gary Lewis compilation. I cannot find when in 1967 this was released. I took a page from Evan Hawley's video history of Gary Lewis and the Playboys, and we'll put it next in our sequence. So if you're a big fan of Gary, please tune in for that. Notice a not as creepy giant picture of Gary on there. And if you like Girls in Love, or Let's Be More Than Friends, or Hello Sunshine, please comment why you like them below, along with your favorite Gary Lewis songs. And we'll see you next time. So long, everybody.